Okay, so I'm going to read a couple poems from this book, To a New Era, and then 3 newer prose poems. So my university, Rutgers, we just authorized a strike. I think 80% of the faculty voted, 94% voted in favor of the strike, which is very exciting. And I realize, part of the reason it's taken so long for the unions to work together is so many adjuncts were sort of feeling like failures. Thankfully not an adjunct anymore, but I still understand that. Anyway, this poem is called, I have a couple poems, 3 poems in this book called The Adjunct Commuter. I fell asleep on a bus, and when I woke, I was the bus. Lumbering, mythic, dumb. My superego had been replaced with an ornery driver who cursed if anyone asked on what street the bus would turn. My unquantifiable desire was now a red, throbbing steering wheel. Everyone who mattered rode in the back. My mother held an empty coffee cup full of disobedient air. My father wandered the aisles looking for his childhood stutter. My husband was reading a novel about the future where everyone turned into a bus. My past self was swinging a knife at a periwinkle simulacrum of her youth. Fear wore a yellow trench coat, took embarrassing pictures of sleeping passengers to post online. Did the city own the bus, or did the bus own the city? I had at least 1 million buses flowing through my valves. This was a kind of power, but also a kind of failure. I wanted to embrace it, to make my failure so big it would swallow the whole street. Replace the city with another city where everyone was also a bus, a failure or a bus. Instead, the light changed. Children with backpacks bigger than their bodies crammed my aisles, then left. An old couple held hands, made jokes about the teenagers falling out of their baggy jeans or squeezed into aqua spandex leggings. Once a woman with a dress decorated with op art eyes kicked a stranger's cell phone wielding ass out the door. Everyone inside the bus laughed, and I laughed too, pushing the laughing smoke out of my old pipes. Years later, I had forgotten I was ever not a bus. Each night I slept in the warm comfort of the city's old garage. I was happy, writing poetry and retread miles, content with the familiar smell of gasoline and weak bodega coffee. So I'll read another poem from this book. So 2 days ago at the book fair, a young person came up to me and said that they wrote a poem with one of the lines from this poem about top surgery, which I thought was cool. So anyway, this has nothing to do with that, but it's cool. All right, this is called Song of Flatbush. And I guess it's also kind of about adjuncting. Song of Flatbush. Yes, I may crash into my 60s, still schlepping heavy laundry down 2 flights of stairs and 7.5 unevenly sidewalked blocks. But I've eaten pickled raisins 4 times in 3 days and met poets from 36 states, and a good percent of them were kind, and walked almost 8 miles each birth of spring, and eavesdropped on a young girl drawing a picture of a baby pacifier with a face sucking on a smaller pacifier, and written poetry on every mode of public transportation, and baked a chocolate cake made of chickpeas, and made love in multiple cheapish hotels, and talked to close friends on both landlines and cells, and been so tired from teaching in 4 different places to 3 different ages in 2 days that I felt an elation, as unbridled as love, unsheathed from its jacket of language, creeping outward in every direction, clarifying like the feeling of thinking, like the texture of living in magnified, temporary air. So I have another book coming out, this time with a new publisher because I'm now an editor and I didn't want to self-publish. So this book is called Data Mine. It's going to be out in like a year and a half. It's all prose poems that are about the internet. So I'll just read 3 of them. This is called, Are You the Invisible Song That Was Playing? To wear a blindfold in the algorithmic state, one must trust that the crowd is closer to a mosh pit than an ocean. One morning, your glass of orange juice is replaced by a beacon of sunlight, and from then on, the square of sadness you carry in your pocket feels heavier. When I was a data point, I posted to a forum a question about the effects of perimenopause, and when the answers came back, I trembled in their presence. My love of the internet was like my love of the city. In each, I wandered underground, smelling of pomegranates and hemorrhoid cream. Yesterday on the subway, I overheard a woman with a voice like a cartoon parrot complaining of her Macy's coworker's purchase of a thong for clubbing. The picture shows just what it is, a sack for your dick and balls. So the next two are kind of newer. I got an outside reader report for my book, and they said it should be a little more internet-y. So I put a lot more internet words in there. This is called Poetica Fondant. Do you remember there was like these videos all over the internet a couple years ago of like cakes that looked like objects? I was inspired by that. I baked a cake in the shape of a moon, and no one could tell what was a cake and what was the moon. When I cut it open, it tasted like overly sweetened watermelon tea and smelled like the shadow of leaves on the lake. I loved it. But then the bloggers arrived, complaining that my baking was bougie. So I crafted a cake in the shape of my face. It had curly hair, glasses, and an open mouth that could keep talking, even when no one was listening. In my big marble cake nose, I hid my people's struggles, the escape from the pogroms, and the years of overly salty chicken. I loved that cake too, but was ashamed to admit it. I had read that identity politics was just the cream filling of neoliberalism. So I baked a cake that was messy, like New York. I cut it open and rode the subways inside, eating my way through dirty, glistening sidewalks like a hungry Frank O'Hara. But that was the year everyone claimed to be Frank O'Hara, even those numbskulls who hated modern art. So I baked a cake shaped like the internet, and when I cut it open, everyone who tasted it said it tasted just like the internet, and I kept eating it and eating it and eating it in a kind of durational performance until the cake itself was the internet, and I myself the somewhat delicious crumbs. Finally, click here to learn more. I asked ChatGPT to give me a metaphor for my childhood trauma, but it answered in a language only translatable by ghosts. When I instant messaged all the ghosts I knew, 2 of them were busy redecorating their goth Barbie core Airstream. One had gotten lost in a mega market's new walk-in fridge, and the other 3 had taken hallucinogenics made from rabbit poop and had yet to regain consciousness. So I opened my favorite coercive control expose message board. This time, instead of the usual blog links and inside jokes, I saw a video of myself, and on it, the scars from when I was 10 and the substitute teacher hit me with an open bag of Funyuns. The screen was suddenly full of scars, not only my scars, scars belonging to people I'd never met, and scars on the flesh of people I had only met in the internet's speckled non-space. All the scars, all scars, wiggling scars, popping and locking scars. Right there in the redacted comments of our subreddit, a chorus line of boogieing scars cut the carpet into rugs. Years later, after I'd gotten married, landed my dream job, bought a house, earned a title in my duck pin league, and learned to use the sous vide wand I'd been given at my retirement party, I found that scar again. I had been examining my body in preparation for my annual dermatology appointment, and there it was. I had almost forgotten about it, but when I saw it again, I was not surprised to see it sway.